Hello everyone, my name is Pavel and I am going to do a C# exercise, chapter 11, exercise 8 from the C# how to program book. We are going to do some object-oriented programming today using or creating account inheritance hierarchy, if I said it right. This is a long assignment, but basically we are going to create three classes. One will be account, which will be the base class for a checking account and a savings account. And then we will implement these accounts, and test them basically. I will go through these notes, as I keep coding. Everything will be in the description under the video, so feel free to read it before you watch the video so you know what I am creating. But I already read it a few times, so I'm going to start coding now. And first thing I'm going to do is create some classes. So the first class I'm going to create is the account. So that's going to be our base class. I'll call it account and add it. And I'm going to create the other as well. This one will be checking account, and the second one or third one will be it's going to be the savings account. Alright, so savings account. Alright, now the first thing I'm going to do, I won't need this anymore, I'll just close that so we have more real estate here. Here's my account class. Now this is going to be our main class, our base class, and what I want us to do is to create some variables. So I will just copy paste it when I can find it, and it's going to be base class account should include one private instance variable of type decimal and some properties. Okay, so we will create one private instance variable of type decimal to represent the account balance. This is what they want us to do. This is from the book. Alright, so here's the private variable. Very simple. That's all I want. Private of type decimal, and I'll call it I'm not gonna call it decimal, I'm gonna call it balance, of course, because it represents the account balance. Secondly, they want us to do a constructor that receives an initial balance and uses it to initialize the instance variable. So the constructor actually is going to be this instance variable with public property. We will be using property, not to access the variables, of course, because they are private, but the properties will be public. Alright, so the constructor is very simple. It's a constructor account, and it will accept the balance, decimal balance. That's something that the user will supply. And over here we will simply well, I don't have the property yet, but so I'll come back to it. I have to create a property first, property called balance. So I will do public decimal balance, and the get is simply it will return our balance, which is a private variable. That's what I mean when I say that we will use the properties to access the private variables. And set, and we will evaluate the value is greater or equal to 0. And if that's that's true, then our balance will equal the value, but if it's false, we will simply throw a new exception and balance cannot be negative, because if it's smaller than 0, then we are in negative, and that cannot be in our account, not according to this exercise anyway. Okay, so when I come over here, I will write some comments. The property should validate the initial balance, and you know, to make sure that it's greater than 0, and that's good enough. That's all we do. We evaluate the balance. Now I can come over here to our constructor and assign our balance property to the balance that is supplied as an argument to the constructor. Okay, so now we need some methods that they want us to do. One of the method will be method credit should add an amount to the current balance. So when the user makes a deposit, basically we will add that into our method, or we will add it into the balance through our method. Now this one will be virtual, because this one will be used both in savings and checking, and it will override it. This is basically, remember, we are working on our base account, now our base class called account, from which savings and checking will derive. So it will be void, we'll do credit, decimal, and it will accept certain amount. And again, I will evaluate it. If amount is greater than 0, then that's a correct amount. Our property balance, we will add the amount to it. If it's 0 or less, then again, I will throw a new exception. And these exceptions, they will simply kind of halt the whole program. We are not really going to be doing anything with them. This is just for the purpose of the exercise. If this was like a live project, obviously you would need to do something with these exceptions. But for our purposes, for the purposes of this exercise, it is not really needed so much. It must be greater than 0. Okay, so that's our method, and I'm going to copy paste from the assignment what I want us to do. So what I want us to do is use a method called debit that should withdraw the money from the account and ensure that the debit amount does not exceed the account's balance. If it does, the balance should be left unchanged, and the method should display the message debit amount exceeded account balance. And we got a hint with this particular method. Define accounts debit method so that it returns a boolean indicating whether money was withdrawn. Okay, so we're going to do another virtual method, and it's going to be a boolean. It will return true or false, and I'll call it debit like they want us to. And it will accept a decimal, and again it's going to be a certain amount, that the debited amount. So it will be boolean, I'll call it OK, equals true. I'll initialize it to true. And if our balance, again our property, I have this something wrong here, amount, I forgot, n. Okay, so if our balance, how to do this for the debit, if a balance minus the amount is greater or equal to 0, then our balance, we will simply proceed. We will deduct the amount from the balance, and we will return true. Okay, will now equal to true. Else, And the else will be okay, they want us to simply write into a console.write line, and it says that debit amount exceeded account balance, so I'll simply copy paste it in there as the message that they want us to use. And now OK will equal to false. No money will be debited. Remember, we are indicating whether money was or was not withdrawn. If the balance is 0 or greater after we deduct the amount, then yeah, you can take the amount. It's like an ATM, you know, you take the amount out. However, if that would result into a negative balance, then no. I mean, if it resulted in negative balance, then we will simply say debit amount exceeds account balance. You cannot have a negative balance. And over here we will return true or false. That's our OK. So we will return either true or false. And I think that might be all for our account. Now I'm going to do the let's do the checking account first. Now checking account takes you know, let me paste again what we are going to be doing from the assignment. I'll just paste it right here. Now checking account should inherit from the base class account and include a decimal instance variable that represents the fee charged per transaction. So it inherits from account. All right, and now let's define the private. It's gonna be a decimal again. Fee, that's the fee per transaction. And second thing that I want us to do, obviously, we need a constructor. And again, I'll just copy paste it. This way we'll know what we are doing. I'm just doing it step by step. Constructor should receive the initial balance as well as a parameter indicating a fee amount. So that's gonna be a public checking account. So it's gonna be decimal balance and decimal fee that will be passed into the constructor. And now, since this is inheriting from the balance, I mean from the account, we will pass the balance, or we will get it from our base class. This means we are inheriting from account, and account has balance already being passed to it into the constructor. So our checking account will simply take whatever was passed into the account and we'll use that. Fee, on the other hand, is going to be calculated directly into our checking account, and it's going to be a property. So I'll do a public decimal fee, and again, get will simply return the variable fee, and our set oops, I got this semicolon wrong, and our set will validate it just like we did before. If the value is greater than 0, then our fee will equal the value. We got a correct entry, correct input. Else, and again, I'll just throw an exception. You could also do all these, you know, console.write line and inform the user of that. And normally that's what you would do. But I am not, again, I'm not processing the incorrect input. I'm not looping, you know, until the user inputs correct value or anything like that. This is simply like this is all going to be hard coded. This is just to show the inheritance and how the checking account and savings account use the base class account and how they are being called in our main method and all that good stuff. So fee cannot be less than 0. Okay, so that's our fee. So we go to our constructor, and I will do fee equals the fee, that's this fee that is passed into the constructor. All right, now next thing we need to do is the class, which is this one, checking account, should redefine the method credit, obviously, because that's remember it's an virtual, so we need to override it, so that they subtract the fee from the account balance whenever either transaction is performed successfully. In other words, whether debit or credit is performed. Checking accounts versions of these methods should invoke the base class account version to perform the updates to an account balance. Checking accounts debit method should charge a fee only if money is actually withdrawn. In other words, remember, when we are not taking anything, if we are returning false, the debit amount exceeds account balance, we will not be charging any fee because no transaction actually took place. And then we got another hint, define accounts debit method so that it returns a boolean, just like we did before. I think that's actually the same thing. So the method that they want us to do, okay, is the credit and debit, so we have to override those. So it's going to be a public override, and it was a void credit, and it already filled it for me because it's based on the account credit. It already knows it's a void, so we already have the void. And our base credit an amount, that's correct, and our balance, we will be deducting the fee. So we are calling the base credit, the credit in our base class called account, and we are passing the amount to it right here, and then we will adjust the balance minus the fee if everything is okay. Remember, our credit, if the amount is equal or less than 0, then actually it will throw an exception, then the program will stop. So that's our credit, and we'll do our public override, and this one is a boolean because this and it's going to be a debit, and once again it it did some work for me already, so but I'm gonna delete that. I'm gonna do a conditional statement here. If our base debit, and I'm passing the amount to it because it expects a decimal of amount, so if that returns true, remember our debit returns true or false. So if it returns true, if everything's okay, then we will deduct the fee from our balance, and we will return true. Otherwise, if this is evaluated as false, in other words, if our debit exceeds the account balance, then it returns false, so this is not executed, and we will simply also return false from this function or from this method. Okay, so that's that, and now I'm going to do the savings account. Now our savings account, let me just copy paste again what we are going to be doing. We are deriving class from savings account, so I can as well do that right away. It's going to be from our account, just like our checking account was. It should inherit the functionality of the account, but also include a decimal instance variable indicating the interest rate in percentages assigned to the account. So that's going to be our first thing that we do. We will define a decimal of interest rate, and now our constructor our savings account constructor should receive the initial balance as well as an initial value for the interest rate. All right, so I'm going to do a public savings account, so it receives the balance and decimal for interest rate. All right, now remember the base, the account class takes balance as well, so we are going to get that balance from that. We are not going to be processing a different balance. We will simply pass that into our base class. And I will create a property called public decimal interest rate. And over here, just like before, it will return our member variable, which is the interest rate. Nothing else we get, but with set, we will do a little evaluations once again. So it's going to be if a value is greater than 0, then our interest rate equals the value, else, and we will simply throw new exception just like we did before, simply saying interest rate must be greater than 0. Okay, so now I can go to back to my constructor and assign a value to our property. So our interest rate property will equal to the interest rate that is supplied to this constructor. All right, so now let me copy paste what we are going to be doing here. We're going to be creating a method called calculate interest that returns a decimal indicating the amount of interest earned by an account. And this method should determine this amount by multiplying the interest rate by the account balance. And of course we are inheriting from the account. And we are inheriting both credit and debit without redefining them. In other words, in our checking account, we redefine both credit and debit. In our savings account, we don't redefine any of them. So we are simply going to do our public decimal. I'll call it calculate interest. And it will simply return the balance with the interest. And it's going to be, so it will return the balance times the interest rate. Remember that interest rate is in percentages, so like 0.1 is 10%, you know, or 0.05 is 5%. So we will multiply the balance with the interest rate, and that will give us the how much money that interest rate earned us. Okay, so that should be all for the accounts. Now let's implement this thing, and so I'm gonna copy paste it again, and it's going to be into our program. So after defining the classes in this hierarchy, write an app that creates objects of each class and tests their methods. Add interest to the savings account object by first invoking its calculate interest method, then passing the return interest amount to the object's credit method. All right, so this should be okay. Well, let me go do the. I need the decimal. I call it total credit, and it equals 0.0, and I put M because remember this is a decimal. I want the decimal points, and let's create the object. So our savings account, I'll call it SA, equals new savings account, and I'll just pass some values, and I'll pass let's say $1,000.25 because I want to test the decimals. And now we have to pass the interest rate. It even tells you right here what it expects. So 10%, for example. So 0.1. And again, I use M because it's a decimal. So now I go and do console.writeLine. I will do beginning balance is, and it's gonna be in currency. So C, and what it's going to be is going to be the balance of the savings account. All right, so SA, it's our object, and the balance is the property. So now our total credit will equal to our SA, that calculate interest, and that's a method. And if you go to our savings account, the calculate interest is a method, and it simply multiplies the balance by the interest rate. So now we are adding that to our balance. So over here I will write console.writeLine total credit, interest, and again it's going to be a currency, and we will pass the total credit. This time we just simply pass in our variable, all right, from the main method. All right, so that's going to be our total interest, and now we can add them, find out the ending balance. So our SA credit, and we will pass the total credit to it. What this does, it adds credit to balance. The credit function, or a credit method, that's in the account, sorry. Remember, a savings account does not redefine the debit and credit. So we go over here, and it expects an amount, and what we are passing to it is the total credit, which is the credit that we calculated from the money that the account had at the beginning. Now we come over here, and we will add that amount over here. See, we have the balance and plus the amount, and the amount in this case is the interest rate that we calculated. Okay, so after that I can simply do console.writeLine ending balance is, and once again it's going to be all currency, and this is the balance again, because now the credit has been added to the balance, so balance has a new value. See, like we're calling the same property, but over here the property will already include the total credit that was added to it. I'm going to do a console.writeLine just to separate the output, because now I'm going to do a checking account. So our checking account has a fee for every transaction. It's a bad checking account, but good exercise though. So we will create our object, so I'll call it checking account, CA for example, and new checking account. And once again we are going to I'll pass the same beginning balance, and now the fee, and the fee is I'll enter $5.50. Let's say $5.50 for each transaction. That's the fee, just for the testing purposes. Like I said, this is not a real checking account, because if I had to pay $5.50 every time I take money out or put in, I would be changing banks. But anyway, so I have $1,000.25, and I'm gonna pay $5.50 for every transaction. So our console.writeLine, just to test that, again our beginning balance is, and just like before it's going to be a currency, and this time it's the CA balance, because we are dealing with a checking account. Now let's do the credit and debit. So our credit and we'll pass a decimal amount, I don't know, let's say 55, 25, whatever, M, because it's a decimal, let's not forget that. So this is adds to the account minus the fee. The fee should be deducted. Now the 550 should be deducted automatically. So let's see if that's gonna work. Now I'll do the debit, and I don't know, going to try to take $925.55 decimals. Okay, now this is taken from the account, and again minus the fee. So over here I'm depositing $55.25, but in reality I should be depositing $55.25 minus $550, because that's our fee. And over here, whatever the balance is after that, I'm going to try to take out $925.55, but in reality I'm going to try to take out $925.55 plus $550, because we have to add that fee to it. And if that together equals or is less than 0, then it shouldn't let me. But this is going to work because we have the beginning balance of $1,000. So if I add 55, I'm gonna have 1,055. So I can certainly take 925 out. Okay, so see if the calculations work. Right line. So our ending balance is, and it's a currency. And again, we do the balance property. And I'll do console.readline to pause the screen. Okay, so let's test it. Let's see if the calculations are performed correctly. Okay, any minute now. Oh, build errors. So what do I get? It expects a semicolon. All right, let's put a semicolon there. All right, so it runs. Let me close this so I can see what I actually, like the numbers that I trying to enter. Oh, come on, don't quit on me. Okay, so these are the numbers, and this is our console. So let's see. So I'm depositing $1,000.25. So here it is. Beginning balance is $1,000.25. The interest rate is 10%. So the total interest rate is $100.03, which should be, let's see if that's 10% exactly. Right, let me see. So it's 1,025 divided by 100 and times 10, and it is. So it's because it rounded it up. So $100.03 is the interest rate. So at the end, I have 1,025 cents, which is the beginning balance, plus $100.03. So we get $1,100.28, which is correct. Remember, this is the savings account, so there are no fees. All right, so now let's check the checking account. So the beginning balance is $1,025. That's what I deposited. Now, if I deposit $1,000.25, I have to take out $550. That's the fee. So our balance now is $994.75. That's our beginning balance, that from which we are calculating the debit. This is just remember, this is already there. There's no. Okay, let me try again. This is hard coded, so there's no fees associated with this. This is not a deposit or a credit or a debit. This is simply there already, 1,025 cents. So actually, so let me try again, 1,025 cents, and I add $55.25 minus $5.50 because that's the fee. So after I add $55.25, my balance is $1,050. Now I am taking out $925.55 from there. So I have $124.45 and minus, this is another, the first one was credit, that's $5.50 fee, and now for the debit, that's $5.50 fee. So the total at the end, after all the credit and debit, as well as both fees for both of these, both of the credit, because the credit and debit both acquire a fee, so the total is $118.95, which it is correct. Oof, that's a lot of numbers, but yeah, this seems to be, the fee seems to be working. The credit and debit both take a fee. So let's try over here. I'm going to try to take 1,925. In other words, more than I have there. So now when I run it, it tells me debit amount exceeds ending balance is 1,050 cents. And the reason why it says 1,050 cents is because debit, which encounters the error, was not processed, but the first one, which is the credit, was. So if I add, let me try that, 1,025 plus 55.25, which was added to it, minus 550, and it's 1,050. There was no fee charge for the debit because debit exceeded the amount available in the account, so it was never processed, so the fee was never taken. So this works as well. All right, so this is the basic, inheritance. You got the base account. In checking account, we override both of those methods. In our savings account, we don't do anything with them because we don't use those. So yeah, this is the exercise 11.8 from Visual C# how to program. I hope it helps you, and I'll see you next time. Take care.